understand that this rhetoric of trying to defend how men aren't all doing this is exactly why men get away with it? Now, let's bring this all together. Ready, girls? Let's bring this all together. If you're new to my content, my name is Brittany Simon. We do philosophy through pop culture. And this is all connected to, stay with me here, MJ Gray getting engaged. And you're like, what? Who? MJ Gray got engaged and the girlies are mad. Stay with me here, okay? Stay with me here. I had a falling out with a friend a couple years ago, really close friend, really my brother, honestly. Okay. And the last conversation we had, where I really think because he was a man, he couldn't have the real conversation he wanted to have. So he came up with some bullshit about why he was mad at me. And what he said to me was, I don't really like your content recently. And I said, what? And he goes, you're just too hard on men, and specifically white men. And I said, what? And he's like, I just think your mental health is a little might be playing a role in this. I was like, pause. Because I've been focusing after what you just saw I went through. I got harassed for 2 years because of this man's community. Me defending myself and standing up for vulnerable communities. Me finally saying, no more will a man use me to credit himself as a safe person in the community. I will not let another man use my reputation to let people think he's safe. I'm calling out everybody. I'm calling out your mom. I'm calling out my brothers. I'm calling out everybody. Okay? Absolutely not. Right? Because I am getting on the internet and showing you statistics and talking about patriarchy, you think my mental health is being impaired? And I was like, are you okay? I was like, do you need to go to therapy? And he says to me, how do you think your partner would feel if he saw your content about how much white men suck? And I said, pause. She would absolutely agree with me. That's why I married her. And 2, this was your mistake. You thought I married a man, 1. And 2, you thought I married somebody who wouldn't agree with me? And by the way, my partner and I have a good laugh about this all the time. Now, listen, I'm a queer person. I'm in a genderless marriage, right? Regardless of what we were assigned at birth, we do not have gender politics in this marriage. There is no said gender does said thing because said gender. So this friend even trying to weaponize my marriage to the love of my life, who's one of the best people I've ever met in my life, who I would not have married if they ever thought or would be mad at the content I made, right? Was a mistake of a man, because that's how a man thinks. And that's the problem. Now, because I am queer and because we experience gender fluidity in the construct of our marriage and in a genderless marriage, it means that when I see people like MJ Gray, who made she made her content on the premise that she would never get married. You know, she has 400,000 subscribers on TikTok. People really followed her because she was aspirational to them. She made content about how like, fuck men, never trust men, men suck. And women are like, yes. And like all these women on the internet who I've also been critical of, but you know, generally see good in their content. I also am very critical of like the Wizard Liz and all these people. It's because I think they're reacting from the trauma they've experienced from patriarchy to believe men are inherently evil, which I do not believe. We are not bioessentialists here, right? So this is the problem with maybe even coming into my content for the first time. I'm not a straight woman. I need you to really understand that, because if you do not get that, you are not going to get what's happening here. I've never been a straight woman. I don't know what it's like to live in the world as a straight woman. I've known I was not straight since I was a little girl. So I have no idea what it's like to live in a world as a straight woman. I just don't really. I mean, I have some idea, but I don't really know. So let me show you this, because I want you to see. This is kind of MJ's content. And this relates because what women in this community deal with from men pushes them into what I call red pill for women. And it's all bad, guys. It's all not deconstructed. It's all centering men, ironically enough. When we talk, somebody asked me this the other day, Brittany, can you talk about decentering men? When I say I decenter men, it means I decenter patriarchy. Not decentering individual people who happen to be men. It means my marriage is about decentering patriarchy. We do not adhere to any patriarchal expectations. We do things because we want to, not because we're told we have to because of our gender or because it feels like a pressure from the world. We catch ourselves every day, you know, you did a patriarchy. Oh, you did a misogyny. Oh, internalized masculinity, especially from me. I suffer from a lot of internalized masculinity. I've had to deconstruct my own internalized misogyny, right? And Drew Afualo has a great book about this, Loud, which I'm going to talk about her today too. And you have to understand, it takes a lot of work for even women to deconstruct patriarchy and really come to decenter men, which is i.e. patriarchy, okay? So look at MJ's video, right? Look at this.
As a woman, what would you do?
Probably get my tubes tied.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on.
If you woke up tomorrow as a woman, what would you do?
Probably get my tubes tied.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get pregnant by these fuck niggas.
Say it one more time.
I don't want to get pregnant by these fuck niggas.
You know what? That's actually the correct answer.
It is?
That's the right answer. Yeah, there was a right answer, and you said it.
I'm weak.
Congratulations.
What did I win?
I like this video, but I didn't mean to. Okay, yeah, like that's you know, that's the kind of on the street content that a lot of girls make, and that's like an exciting answer. Oh, tie your tubes. That's a cool answer. I've never heard that, right? Chat says you can be gay and still center men. Absolutely. Studs, masks do it all the time. Where studs are for the Black community and masks are for all communities, but it's this sort of version of being a mask. Let's just say mask, actually. Let's leave the studs out of this just in case. But like the masks generally have a tendency, they're kind of like fuckboy lesbians, have a tendency to actually center men at the root of their masculinity. And it's not that masculinity is all about men. It's that a lot of lesbians try to be fuckboys because they try to be better than the men that they won't fuck. And I was like, girls, please decenter men from your lesbianism. Trust me, all of our communities are suffering. All of us are suffering. It doesn't matter. All of us, gay men too. Gay men have been the focus of, right? Like gay men have been the focus of this too. Gay men also have to deconstruct patriarchy. We have all been suffering from patriarchy, okay? So when MJ made this video recently,
yes, I am engaged. Yes, I am the same person who made several videos saying that I never had any plans to get married. I did not want to get married, and I did not agree with the institution of marriage. The gag is I still don't agree with the institution of marriage, but in those videos, I made caveats. Under certain circumstances, like if you plan on having children, if you plan on living together, if you plan on buying property together, those are the situations where.
Okay, so just to give you some context into MJ a little bit more. Hold on. Okay, this is an older video. So that video was 5 days old. This is a newer or older video. Men should always pay for women.
And no, men should always pay for women. And no, it's not because men are natural providers or because women shouldn't have their own money or work. This has nothing to do with gender roles. Men should have to incentivize women to want to be around them for the following reasons. Men are women's apex.
Hold on, chat says, so she's a hypocrite? No, she's not a hypocrite. This is what I'm trying to make. So the argument against MJ is that she's a hypocrite, and I'm going to explain to you why she's not a hypocrite. I'm going to explain to you why, if you do not truly decenter patriarchy and decenter men, you become anti-male content creators that I am not. You think I am, but that's just because angry men click on my videos and it pays my rent. It's not my fault you're angry, okay? But my centered philosophy on gender is that it doesn't really exist in the way that you think. So keep in mind, I do think a lot of these women look like they're being hypocritical, but what they're doing is they're in denial of their own want. Girls, it's okay to want to be in love. It's okay to want to love a man. It's better for you if you don't choose a patriarchal man. It's better for you if you do not choose a man who's engaging in patriarchy, if you're not choosing to engage in patriarchy. But when you live a life where you're always just reacting to something, then you end up just being unfulfilled. This is a philosophy channel for a reason, because I think a lot of us only see our life through like oppression, which is so valid, but you are more than your oppressors think you are. So if you live your whole life only centering your oppressor's opinion of you, and that's kind of what you're doing when you say things like this, like men should pay, and it's not because he's the provider, it's because women don't make as much or something like that. You're still centering oppression. You're not actually having a custom relationship. So what I encourage people to do, you don't have to do this, is I think you should have a custom relationship. I think your marriage deserves to be custom. I'll get into that in a second, but stay with me.
Predator. 91% of rape and assault cases are done to women. 99% of perpetrators are men. 2% of convicted rapists go to prison. And the majority of the time, the offender is someone that the woman knows or is dating. That does not seem very equal to me. And the crazy part is, you will hear men complain more about the male loneliness epidemic or feminism than you will hear them talk about any of these things. Men rely on these bad men to make themselves look like good men in contrast. And since they rely on this contrast to evade accountability, they will never actually protect us from these bad men. As long as these bad men exist, we women need these good men to protect us. The problem is that's a lie because they don't actually protect us. Why would women choose to go out with our apex predator and also pay for our own meal? Why would we put ourselves out just to put ourselves at risk? My second point is women's time is more valuable than men's time is. Men constantly tell us that we're going to be undesirable after 30, while they get to be desirable well into their senior years. Now, I don't think that's true, but that's what we're consistently told. In any case, if a woman does want to have children, she does have a limited amount of time compared to a man. And by this logic, since women have limited time, it is inherently more valuable than a man's time. Why then would a woman waste her time to go out with a man who isn't going to make it worth her time and who more than likely is going to waste her time? I promise you, you're going to feel better about a man wasting your time if he's also fed you and has.
Okay, the straights are suffering. Like, straight people are suffering, right? Her hashtags are sprinkle, sprinkle, hypergamy, and dating advice for women. Straight women are suffering. This is deeply wounded philosophy, right? This is a bad framework. It's a bad framework because it's actually centering men. Every decision she makes takes the man into account. I'll give you an example. When I was younger, I used to shave the undercut of my hair so men would find me less attractive. That was me getting my haircut centered around men. Instead of just getting the haircut I wanted, I made it about men. Do you guys see the difference? Now I just do my hair the way I want and I don't think about men. They never come into I don't think about them. Bye. But when I was younger, I used to think I was decentering men by thinking about men. These women don't even know they're still centering men. And I'm saying, stop centering men. Stop it, right? Now it's a skill. You have to learn it. It took me a long time to get there. So, I'm pretty empathetic to it. Okay. I never went this direction. To be fair, I went more girl boss feminism. Like, no offense to these women. I just don't think they're reading like Black feminist literature. You know what I mean? Like, or intersectional gay literature. That's the problem with this bubble as well. They're not reading those kinds of books. They're reading different kinds of books about, like, they're usually capitalists as an example, which she is. So that's the other problem, is like, they're not environmentalists. They're not leftists. They're not anti-capitalists. They're usually women that are more than happy to engage in, systems of oppression because they think like, oh, it makes sense. And they'll talk about sort of an intersectional reality where like women are oppressed and da-da-da-da. But again, right? Okay, here's another video of hers. She's making a stitch.
Illegal to wear. Really could not wear makeup, and it was actually illegal to wear. These girls would be so down bad, it's not even funny. Men would imagine if women couldn't wear makeup. Tell me about it, because if women really could not wear makeup and it was actually illegal to wear, these girls would be so down bad, it's not even funny. Men would actually understand that these girls are really not that cute as y'all think.
Then go fuck a man. Go fuck a man.
See, what is that? Like, this stitch doesn't even make sense.
No one's stopping you from dating men.
And these women always go into homophobia for some reason and transphobia. They're always like TERFs. Like, girls, why are you coming after the gay? Why would you want him to fuck leave men alone? Gay men don't want to fuck him either.
Go date a man. That's okay. Live your truth.
You know what I mean? So like then they engage in homophobia, right? Okay, here's another video of hers.
You have to do something crazy periodically just so people know that you're capable of crazy. You got to keep people on their toes. You don't ever want to be in the position where someone is thinking, oh, well, she wouldn't do something crazy. I'm not saying to do crazy things all the time. Don't develop a reputation for being crazy, but you want people to always know that you're capable of being crazy.
Like, where is it? Where's my video? Like this one.
Marriage does make sense.
This made people feel crazy. They're like, oh my God, she kept us on our toes. She got engaged after making all this content. She's not a hypocrite. This is this bubble. Transactional relationships. If a man is worth it, can you have a real relationship with a man? And that's why I'm saying, stop thinking about men so much. Again, I do make content centered around patriarchy, but I'm trying to get at the heart of systems. And the men won't hear that because men think, oh, Brittany's just so focused on men, this, men, that. And I know you're not ready to get it, girl, because you haven't read a book in 10 years. I get it. But she's actually talking about men. She's not even talking about patriarchy because there's a bioessentialism to these arguments. And that's the difference in our content. I am never going to tell you to think men are inherently evil. That makes no fucking sense. But I will tell you this, men can be dangerous if they're upholding the systems of oppression that face all of our communities, that impact all of our communities, right? Okay, watch this video with me about her talking about her engagement for a second.
I don't think you should feel like getting married is a milestone that you must make in your life to feel like an accomplished person. I don't think it's an accomplishment.
Yeah, exactly, chat. So they say that men hate women as people and women hate men as systems. She seems, and a lot of these women in this community put up a front of hating men as people. But I actually think they just hate men as systems, but they haven't reworked their content to reflect that. And I'll show you another content creator in the 4B movement just to like make my case clear, right? So give me a second here, but let's listen to this for a second.
I don't think as women you should feel pressured to get married, because when women are pressured to get married, they end up in bad.
No, chat says she doesn't like men, so she shouldn't want to get married. No, they don't. That's the problem. She doesn't not like men. She hates abusive men. And when you live a life where you're only interacting with abusive men, you're like, what the fuck? The dilemma is that if you're in a patriarchal culture in which you're in a pro-capitalistic world, you're more likely to meet abusive men. And in general, even in leftist spaces, you can meet abusive men. We know this. But the point is that most men are bad. Period. And a lot of women enable. The dilemma is that the women will be held more accountable than the men. So you guys are going to hold her more accountable than the men she's had to deal with. And I'm saying that's the issue. She's not being a hypocrite. She's being open to a man. And now you're punishing her for it. So you are reinforcing in her belief that men suck, because now you're reinforcing in her that she was wrong to pick a man. Instead of celebrating the fact that she feels like she's in love, everyone's like, oh my God. And now all the men are saying like, see, she did want a man. And then all the women are like, oh no, wait, you're the reason I thought I was never going to get married. And I'm like, what? Why would you base whether or not you're getting married or not off a fucking YouTuber or a TikToker? See how you're the problem? In which way can you say you are liberated from the systems of oppression and then say, I wasn't going to get married because you inspired me not to? Girl, I hope you are not making decisions based off of my life. You know what I mean? You have to think about why you do things. This is philosophy. Why do I do this? Why do I believe this? Why do I think this is right? And am I willing to change my mind? Right? So I don't think she's being a hypocrite. I think she's misinformed about her why, which most people are. I think a lot of people don't know why they do anything.
Bad situations. I am in a good situation, and I cannot tell you all of the details of the situation I'm in.
And also people were mad she got engaged after 9 months. Girl, I got engaged after 6 months. We've been happy for years now. We're very happy. So you're also doing this other thing where it's like, girl, you've only known him 9 months. Guys, it's not the amount of months or time you know somebody. My brother got engaged after 3 months to his wife. They are married 10 plus years with 5, almost 6 kids, and they're very fucking happy. It's not the time you know the person. It's how much you know yourself. It's not how much you know them. It's how much you know yourself and how much you trust yourself to pick them. Yes, you can be lied to. Yes, you can be scammed. Yes, we can be victims of abusers. Let's say there's not an abuse. Let's say it's just normal people. No abusers in this conversation. Then at the end of the day, we all need to trust ourselves to pick the person that we want to do life with. Okay? Oops, damn it.
Because now the situation I'm in involves another person. So I have to maintain privacy around my relationship, and I will be even more stringent about that going forward. I owe it to my partner, who does not have any kind of presence online at all, to protect our privacy as a couple. I am in a good situation. I'm with someone who is fantastic, and I'm in a good situation. Again, I cannot give you all the details of the situation that I'm in. You just have to take my word for it. If you think that I'm a dumb bitch, then you think I'm a dumb bitch, and it's probably not a good idea to follow me anymore. If you think I'm full of shit, then you think I'm full of shit, and you probably shouldn't follow me anymore. All I've ever done online was share exactly how I feel at that specific point of time, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. Engaging with influencers, content creators, when engaging with social media, you need to utilize discernment. And that has been a pillar of the things that I've said on this channel since its inception. You need to have discernment. If anything I've said had caused you to make major life decisions or to not make major life decisions, that's not a good sign. You need to make decisions for yourself for what is best for you. Because it's true, I can't promise you that I'm never going to change my mind. I can't promise you that I'm not going to get more information and make a different decision in the future. I can't promise you that because I'm a human being. all I can do is my best to be.
So you get the vibe, right? Now, people were saying, but if you look at her content and you look at the content she's making, it's very capitalistic, right?
I bought this bag for $3,000. I bought the entire outfit from The Devil Wears Prada, the Chanel boots outfit, the iconic Chanel boots outfit. Several people were like, well, you don't have the bag. That is true. It was selling for like, here she, how Fendi does the satin blue.
So, okay, she's an overconsumer, right? Oh, we're having trouble playing this video.
Let them eat cake.
Right?
That's such nonsense. I would never say that.
She's like staying at the Ritz Hotel. She's marrying like a really rich person. She's all about it herself, right?
There are a lot of things that are being said about me simultaneously that are contradictory. There are people telling me or saying that I'm an SW because I have historically posted luxury things, posted luxury vacations, posted myself at luxury hotels, and the only explanation for that would be that I'm an SW. And then in the next breath, there are people saying that the reason why I've made videos where I was anti-consumerist is because I was never offered those things. The reason why I accepted my proposals because I was never offered that, and that's always secretly what I wanted. I have always dated wealthy men. Dated them.
Damn.
They weren't clients of mine. I dated them. They were people that I dated. They were boyfriends. I do not share the details of my personal dating life online, and we can see why. I've been proposed to before. I have not accepted those.
This top chat says, you said luxury brands are tacky, did a huge haul. Please accept what you did. She said, guilty. Now what? I buy luxury things. Which God would you prefer I repent to so I can make it right? That's just her not knowing her values, which is typical. Most people don't know their values, right? And that's a question, right? It's easy to think you're a good person if you've never been tempted. The question is, in times in your life when you've been tempted, what were the decisions you made? So as an example, like I couldn't afford luxury items, but I'll tell you this right now, like the ethics of my life and my partner's life, like we wouldn't do it now. But if this was 10 years ago, we would have done it because we were different people 10 years ago, for sure. But, she's allowed to change, but she doesn't know herself and most people don't. So everyone is calling her a hypocrite. The irony of you guys caring what she does, except to say within your values. So example, her getting engaged doesn't make her a hypocrite. It makes her somebody who's making a choice that works for her in the moment. The hypocrisy though feels that way. And here's where I'll expand upon this. Because I think people actually do live vicariously through their content creators, right? So again, I'm not saying she's not a hypocrite for herself a year ago. I'm saying there could be a hypocrisy there. I'm saying for who she is right now in the moment, she's telling you, I don't want to be that person anymore. I actually want to be this person now. And also that's the dilemma with like the capitalist bubbles is like capitalism. There is always going to be a bubble of people that say things before they have money and things that after they have money. Like the whole Epstein argument is funny because we just covered all of these men on these websites who were not Epstein billionaires. Men often don't even need the money. They just need the opportunity. Women don't always need the opportunity. Sometimes they just need the money, which gives them opportunity. Like a lot of us did watch The Devil Wears Prada and Sex and the City and really want a lot of these luxury items because we thought they were so cute on the people we were admiring, right? It's not that weird that she might not have realized, oh, like I kind of do want to buy this now that I can. Okay, then buy it. But now say to yourself, I'm not having an embodied ethical stance and or that I change this stance, right? And that's the problem. We don't give people this language, okay? So we don't teach people how to recognize that they are not who they also thought they were. So in other words, it would be great if she made a video that said, and maybe she hasn't, I missed it, like, because I don't watch her like that. Maybe it's like, yeah, you know what? I thought I was anti-overconsumption, but then I realized, like, fuck it, we only live once. I'm going to consume, baby. Then it would be disgusting, but at least it would make sense within her values, right? So let me show you this video. This is the 4B Forever channel. And 4B Forever, just to give you some insight into the content they made. So they made this video with these three ladies, which I have also covered on my channel. And often because I make very like intersectional, feminist, progressive, leftist content, a lot of people often think like, oh my God, Brittany, do you love these ladies? I actually take issue with the heterosexuality of it all, but I also do kind of like Drew, and I kind of do like Lisa. I don't love Mel, but that's a whole other thing. And I'll show you why I have problems with the heterosexuality of it all, because when they're talking about men, it's confusing a little bit. Okay. So let me just show you, right? Chad says, how do you publicly change your mind gracefully? It's never really gracefully, but I feel like I do it all the time. I feel like the joke in this community is like, were you saying something different 3 months ago? Yep. Yeah. And like, that's the thing. That's why philosophy is so interesting, because you're always changing. So I think it's not about being graceful. It's about being honest. That's what it is. It's about being honest. Right? Okay. So check out this commentary video really fast, and then I'll show you some details.
So I talked about this a little bit in my live last night, but I'll just say I have sort of complicated feelings about it, right? Because on one hand, I do think that a lot of the content that some of those women create is really helpful and has influenced my way of thinking. And in particular, I really enjoy the content from Mel Hamlet. She's a little bit older than me, and she's had a lot of life
That's the woman in the middle.
experience. And I also feel like she's kind of similar to me in some ways, because I also am more of like a tomboy. I'm interested in the outdoors. I'm not like super masculine or anything like that, but I do feel like in my mindset, I oftentimes feel more competitive with men rather than wanting to like earn men's favor. And I feel like that's the way that Mel Hamlet is.
Okay. If you're in competition with men, you are earning their favor. That's why men are competitive with each other. They're getting their social cred. So you can't be in competition with men unless you want their approval. That's why I say I'm in competition with nobody but myself. That's also something I learned after deconstructing patriarchy and decentering men. Oh yeah, I don't care what men think. I don't need it. I don't care what other women think. I care about people. I respect their ideas regardless of gender, but I'm only in competition with myself. Other YouTubers, I do not think about it. When I look at my analytics or my YouTube channel and I think of how many views I get and stuff, I do not care. All I care about is old Brittany's content versus new Brittany's content, or my numbers before versus my numbers. The only analytics I look at are my own, right?
As a person, or at least that she has been in her past, right? And so I feel like I kind of identify with her a lot, and I also think that she does really great content on this app. Like a lot of her content about hobo-schmexuals and Peter Pans and like men in the outdoors, I really resonate with a lot of that content, and it rings true based on things like that I've seen in my own life, right?
Okay, pause. So she's talking about Mel. So this is Mel talking about MJ. So you know how we just watched MJ talk about her getting engaged? Well, here's Mel. No, we just talked. Yeah, MJ getting engaged. Here's Mel's opinion. And by the way, this still connects to our first story. This connects to this idea that there are offshoots of groups reacting to these stories. And I'm saying I will never turn on a whole group of people ever. I will never put a whole group of people in a bubble and say, all of these people must die, or all of these people are evil simply because they were born a certain skin color or specific gender, or even believe in a similar religion. I will never look at all groups of people and say, but I do think sometimes you think I'm saying that, not my main audience, of course, when I say patriarchy or men as a whole, because men haven't done the work to deconstruct patriarchy, and these women haven't done enough of it either. So then there's a problem. So listen to Mel talk about MJ and tell me, what do you think the problem with this is?
One of the hardest things about being child-free and single all through my 20s, all through my 30s, was seeing women get picked off one by one and having to make friends all over again and feeling like a loser and feeling like a loner and feeling betrayed on some level whenever somebody who I thought was in it for the long haul as a single and child-free person, when they got married, and especially when they had children. And so the whole thing with MJ, if you don't know who that is,
Wait, pause. Just as I agree, we're so subject to in-group versus out-group bias, I try to remind myself to find the center. We are more alike than different at the end of the day. No. That's not what I'm saying. Pause. Fuck the center. No, girlies. Wait, are you talking to me? That is not what I'm communicating with my sentence. I'm saying I'm not racist or bigoted. But I am not on the center of anything. We are not more alike than we are different. We are actually very fucking different. And I am all the way fucking left. Okay? And I'm all the way fucking away from all of you. Because like we cannot be aiming for the future and like most people. Nah. To be very clear, we are not more alike than we are different. We are actually very fucking different. Chad said I just met the center in terms of philosophy. No, in terms of philosophy, I am very fucking different. We are all very fucking different. No. I'm saying I'm never going to look at a whole group of Muslims and think, oh, they're all XYZ, right? I'm never going to look at a whole group of people with different skin color and be like, oh, they're all XYZ. I am saying that I want to advocate for a future that is not ever being expressed now. No one is doing the work that I am doing. And if they are very small creators. And there's maybe like 10 of us. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, no one's doing the work we're doing. And you can tell by our views and the fact that everyone's mad at us, because look at her views. Look at all these women's views. All these women are playing into patriarchy and capitalism, talking about I'm sad when my friends get picked off. I don't even think that way. I'm saying stop thinking that way. Your friends are not getting picked off because they got married or fell in love or had a baby. Your friends are just enjoying their life, right? So I'm saying, like, no looking at groups of people and saying like they're all, everybody is suffering. This is, the philosophy is everybody is suffering, but look how you're all suffering because all you're doing is living in reaction to other people instead of what are my values, right? So I am not saying, you know what I mean? So, okay, so look at Mel. She's bitter. She's upset. And bitter can be a misogynistic word, so we want to be careful here. But I'm saying, what does it matter if your friends fall in love, unless you think your friends are engaging in abusive relationships? Now, Mel had abusive relationships. Her whole content is pointing out how abusive relationships work. But the dilemma with this content is it's bioessentialist. It, at the end of the day, comes at the expense of marginalized communities, right?
She's a mutual of mine. I like her content. Don't agree with all of it. I personally don't think it's ever really good idea for anyone to say they're never going to do something, because almost like the law of the universe is like, oh, really, bitch? You think you're not going to have a kid? Wait. And but anyway, I understand why people are mad. I also think people are being a little ridiculous too. And it reminds me of when I was hanging out with a bunch of women who were, I'm 48, by the way. When I was hanging out with a bunch of women who were in they're like 22 to 27, and all of them were like, I'm not having kids. And this is when I went back to my outdoor world. And I think I was in like my late 30s. I was like 38. And I loved going back to my old world of like living in my truck and doing outdoor education. But I felt really old in that moment because I thought to myself, all you bitches are having kids. Shut up. I didn't say it because I also didn't want to be this like crotchety old lady who's bitter. I wasn't bitter. I didn't want children. And at the time, I never thought I would get married because I hadn't even really dated. I'd had one relationship at the, like one long term, which is under a year, relationship at the age of 36, my first long term one, after, 12 years of on and off celibacy all through my 20s and 30s. And I almost got murdered in that. So then I was like, I was on another break of like, fuck all that. And so I just... I didn't say anything because I have seen, this is about grief, and all of us are in a different stage of grief around patriarchy and all the bullshit it promised us. This is the moment that I truly started mourning my, like, not having the thing. And like not even wanting the thing and realizing everyone's getting married and having babies. All right. This was at my friend's wedding in Montana. I just put this together today. I was living in New York at the time. And when my very best friend, Liz, she's like my soulmate. When she told me she was getting married, I ended up taking I moved back into my truck and went back into living in my truck again and was really in like an identity crisis. And I subletted my apartment in New York and wandered all over and did this really weird road trip where I was hanging out with like a piñata and realized how alone I felt. And at this wedding, it was my friend who was a male version of me, and it was his wedding. And I was like, damn, if this dude's getting married, like he was more of a, all of my other friends like were getting married. But this guy was like the male version of me, which is like kind of a lone wolf, lived in my truck, did nomadic stuff, like just moved around all the time, wasn't really interested that much in relationships, but at least he'd been dating and stuff, and I had. And I was like, damn, if he's getting married, I really am like gonna be alone. And in this specific moment that I truly mourned this is when we all arrived, and it's all my friends from college, and all of them go off to their hotel rooms together. And I was like, well, what are we doing? And they all wanted to take naps or hang out together. And I was like, oh, that's right. I'm not I can't just go hang out with people because they're all fucking coupled, you know? And I felt so alone. I felt so alone. And I felt so bad that not only did I realize I'm never getting married. I mean, I was 32 here, I think. 31 or 32. I had never been on a fucking date. This is before I'd even had like a relationship. I'd never been on a date, y'all, at 32, okay? I'm a late bloomer. For anybody who is like,
okay, let's pause it for a bit. This is unwise suffering. It's real. It exists. I feel for her. I will say it's difficult because I have some girlfriends in my life who are definitely like, sort of said similar things to me, like everyone's getting married, everyone's having babies, I feel abandoned. And I'm sitting here saying like, aren't you the one who moves for your job? And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, don't you literally move for your job? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, so you're not even consistently available for your friends. Your friends who are getting married, they can't rely on you to stay in state because you move around for your job, right? The same people who have also lived in 20 different places and who can't always be there, and who also, by the way, are still deconstructing patriarchy because they feel not fulfilled by fulfilling this expectation, right? Look, this is loneliness that is real. The loneliness epidemic impacts everybody, but really you have to deconstruct your sense of meaning in the whole world. Your like, what is the point of you being alive type thing? Like real deep philosophical stuff, right? And you have to come to the realization that like you are a community member and you are not defined by partnership or having babies. And also you can't attack people for feeling fulfilled by that role. So what I'm saying is, and look, most of my friends or people I've known throughout my life who fall into this category, they do end up becoming exactly the perfect targets for abusive men and often married men or cheaters because they're like, at least I'm being picked. Right? So you can either go into the direction of allowing abusive men to pick you and you pick them, or you go into the direction of becoming like really anti-men and you become the stereotype of a cat lady. Look, we all aspire to be cat ladies, of course, but happy queer cat ladies, obviously. So I am a big fan of cat ladies. I just think you should be queer liberated cat ladies who have a nice garden and are fulfilled in your individuality and as a community member. But what we have with this lady and everyone else is a real anger and bitterness that I think is hard to be around. I personally don't like Mel's content because it's too negative. It's super does not make me feel inspired or good about myself. It makes me feel hopeless. And that tells me that is probably really meaningful to a lot of people because a lot of people feel that way right now. And I'm saying that's great. And I'm glad she's a stepping stone for you, but I hope you know this is a stepping stone. Please do not live here forever. I aspire to be the old lady in the woods with a cabin who has potions brewing, and if people need a place to stay, I'm there, right? Like, I want to be the person with a medicine cabinet ready to heal people. I want to be a person who has food in the oven every day, and I'm ready to feed. This is not this. This is not that person. Now, I think they cope with saying, oh, we have a community, we have a people, but it doesn't allow people to be free. I love you enough. Go get married and have fun. I love you. I want to see you joyful. Go have a baby, right? I celebrate every new life that comes into the universe because they're all precious and important, right? And so there's some level to this, right? Just as I don't find Mel unlikable because it's too honest. She just seems like she could do with some therapy maybe. Yeah, but being honest doesn't take away the fact that it's self-pitying. It is borderline philosophically pathetic. And I don't mean to be so harsh, but she's too old to not know better. She's nearing 50, right? When is she going to learn? When is she going to be old enough to know better? How is she going to be the adult in the community if she doesn't do the work? How are you going to tell people that this is aspirational, right? Is this aspirational? Is this what we want for people in the community who are the adults? Do we want leaders in our community that are still at this stage of living? Or do we accept that she's not ready to be a leader, even though she's certainly playing one on the internet, and that she needs to go do some work? Just because you're old doesn't mean you're wise. I have a whole video on that on my Bert Simon channel. Just because you're old doesn't mean you're wise. And I don't think I'm wise either. I think I'm still earning that right to be wise. But I certainly know that I'm not bitter. I know that I radically accept we're humans on a planet. We're literally humans on a planet, right? And And this is just how it goes. And so you have to build out of love, out of joy, right? And so again, we're all engaging in philosophical evil. I just want you to be on the other side of healthy. Like on my healthy spectrum, I would still say she was unhealthy. And she says, I'm a late bloomer. Oh, why were you a late bloomer? Oh, I decided to live in my car. My friend was getting married. Oh, why'd you make that decision? There are so many why questions that we need to have here. So when this 4B movement girl, this one says, oh yeah, I like Mel's work. Like I really relate to a lot of it. What are you relating to? Tell me more about that. I've never gone through a stage where I didn't believe in love. I've gone through a stage where I was like, I don't need a man, but I've never gone through a stage where I didn't believe in love because I know love exists. I had it growing up. I've known my best friend for 30 years. I've had good people in my life, you know what I mean? Of all genders. I know what love is. The question is, maybe Mal grew up without love. Maybe she grew up in a really abusive childhood and never had unconditional love. But see how that manifests in your work? Now, look, I think Mel is important and should exist and should express herself and should make content, right? I think that's great. I don't have a problem with that, right? The dilemma I have is with the audience not realizing where she is in the same way they didn't realize where MJ was. I saw MJ and I knew exactly where she was. Just like when I saw the wizard Liz, I was like, oh, I know what this is. But do you know what you are? Do you know you're still in the middle of hell? Do you know you're still in the eye of the storm? See, you think you're not because it's calm in the eye of the storm, but really you're in the eye of it. Do you know that? And I'm saying that's the part that's really hard for us because it feels like this must be the answer. When I shaved my undercut and I was like, fuck men, I went to my lesbian barber and I said, give me a haircut that would make men think I was a lesbian and wouldn't be into me. And she said, this isn't going to deter them, but here you go. And that's the point. That was still centering men at the time. That was still centering patriarchy. That was me existing in opposition to instead of actually just doing what I want every day. It's kind of like saying, I made a joke. I think I made this joke on stream the other day, right? About like, I'm just going to wear pants. I'm not going to wear any skirts as a point of rebellion to my family. The truth is I'm going to wear a skirt if I want to wear a goddamn skirt. But also, right? It's like, I don't want to live my life in reaction to what you're doing. I'm just going to vibe. Now, I understand there's a political implication to this, so that's separate from this. The political action is obviously in reaction to philosophical, foundational understanding between yourself and everything outside of yourself. That's personal. Liberate yourself and acknowledge that you live in a world that's oppressed. But I will not be oppressed spiritually, personally, because the world is struggling. I will liberate myself. I recommend you liberate yourself, right? Okay, just a little bit of more of Mel so we get more of an idea.
Oh, Hamlet's married. What does she know about being single? Fuck off. I went through the hardest decades of being child-free and single and literally not even dating. Okay? I painted myself into a corner almost where a lot of people at this wedding didn't even reach out to me to hang out before because they were like, well, we know you. You're always doing your own thing. I was literally a lone wolf, y'all. I was like the person who was afraid to like being tied down or whatever. I had no idea what all that was really about until I did a lot more work on myself.
Okay,
but this was the moment
Love
where
that.
I was like, damn it. They're all, like, I had to grieve. Mm-hmm. And then
the question is, why are you grieving? So I like that she knows this, right? She's coming to it. But the question is, why are you grieving? What condition of your life led you to needing to grieve? One of the things I always say about my siblings that really makes us exceptional is none of us are jealous of each other. We, minus one of them, we celebrate each other's wins. When somebody buys a house or somebody gets a raise or somebody has a child or somebody gets married, we're all like, woo! Like we're like really excited, assuming it's healthy. We're really excited for one another. I celebrate people's wins so hard. I am that girl. You need me to celebrate your win? Let's fucking go. I'll throw you a party right now. This feels like, why can't you celebrate people's wins? Now, I get it if you think your friend is marrying an abusive person. It would be very hard for me to celebrate my friend's wedding if I thought they were marrying an abusive person. But if they're not marrying an abusive person, then like, I love a wedding. I love a fucking wedding. And maybe it's because I'm a Syrian. And when you go to a wedding, it's like 400 people and you're all just having fun together and you're seeing your cousins and everything. So maybe it's also because of my cultural background that I was always raised in a bubble that celebrated people's wins. Maybe that's a part of it. I don't know. But then the question is, okay, what about my environment made me this person, right?
Second time that I lost my mind was when my sister told me she was getting married. Within a few weeks, I bought a one-way ticket to South America.
She keeps going, nobody wants to be in my life and nobody wants to be my friend. So every time I'm given a chance, I'm going to run away. I get it. Maybe she's different now. This is a past story she's telling us. So let's see where she goes with this. I'm open-minded, of course. I always am. Again, I don't think Mel's a bad person. I think she's just a little too wounded for me. But it's funny how we self-sabotage, isn't it? And maybe that's the story. Maybe what she's getting at the end of this is that she's a self-sabotager, because that's what it sounds like to me. So instead of staying and celebrating your sister's wedding, you took a one-way ticket out of the country? And then she's like, why don't I have friends? Let's see if the end of the story is self-awareness.
I mean, I had no idea what I was going to do. I figured it out. I found jobs doing WOOF, a worldwide organization of organic farming. So I was like farming 6 hours a day, picking strawberries, in Argentina and Patagonia. I was down there for like 8.5 months, I think. I was so lost because I was like, my two life partners, my sister, my best friend, now they're gone.
Okay, so that's the other part. They're not your life partners. They probably didn't consent to that. My sister and I joke all the time. I love you, but I'm not doing life with you. We talk about this all the time. I love my friends, but I'm not doing life with them. I'm too much of an independent girly. The only person I've decided to do life with is my partner. And that was a very rare choice. Like, they're the first person I've met my whole life while dating that I actually wanted to do this with. That's why I said yes to them. Because I had never dated anybody that I wanted to do life with. They're the only person I've ever met my whole life. Not my besties, not my sister. I love my besties and my sister. Love them. I don't want to do life with them. We're too different. Our values are different. The way we would keep our house is different. We're too different. It doesn't make sense. So I would never call them my life partner. So I wonder how she's changed her language now. I understand this is a past story. So let's see how she feels in the present.
I was used to seeing other people getting married, but I was like, oh my God, I'm literally going to be alone. So believe me when I tell you,
that's such a cute picture.
Know what it's like to try to exist in the world as a woman and not be interested in marriage. I mean, I was never against the idea of partnering, but I'd never seen a healthy example of it. And I was like,
okay, I grew up with healthy examples of marriage, so I knew it was possible. This is a big deal. This is a really big deal. If you do not grow up with it as a data point, how are you going to know it exists? I was very privileged. I grew up with a data point that healthy marriages existed, right? So very important thing to be aware of. I'm glad that she said that. I'm glad that she's aware of that.
Why would you do this? And I was scared. And so I just focused on, and I'm really proud of myself, I focused on my life, just doing whatever I wanted. I literally lived like a man, minus, the privileges of a man, and a minus being able to, gold dig or labor dig, minus having women supporting me all over the place. The way the men who do this Peter Pan crap, they are the biggest freeloaders ever. They're parasites. Where women who do this stuff, they take care of themselves because we've always had to take care of ourselves. We pay our bills. I slept in Walmart parking lots.
I did that on my road trips. I did 2 solo road trips around the US, and it was the greatest experience of my life. And it was a blast. Now, I had help from my community. I never did anything alone. I've never done anything alone. So this is the other part of an experience. I do not sell myself a narrative that I did anything alone. That's way too American USA focus. That's too individualistic. I've never done anything alone. Everything I've ever done, anything I've ever accomplished, came because I was a part of a community. Even when I felt like I wasn't, even when I told myself like I'm doing it myself, I'm pulling myself up by the, I wasn't. And I agree with her. There are absolutely men who do this that are freeloaders. They're lazy. They're taking advantage of the community. I agree with her, but this isn't always it, right? This isn't always the thing, right? So I hear this, I feel this. It's so deep in I understand, but see how this relates to everything that happened before with the 62 million men. The same men that are wounded, who don't want to be associated with being predators, have to attack this number. So they're like, not me though, not me. And this woman who's like, I never wanted a husband. I mean, I was never against it, but I never saw a healthy relationship. Don't you see how we're all reacting out of our traumas? Philosophy allows you to introspect. Why do I feel this way? Why do I think this way? Is this true? Do I even believe this? I really encourage you to practice this meditation where I used to take calls and I used to have people do this where I want you to sit, pick a forest as the environment, let's say, and say you're in the middle of a forest and there's no, I mean, the world exists, right? There is a society, there are people, but it's just you. No one can hear you. I'm not going to tell on you. The trees are not going to whisper your secrets. Who do you want to be? If there was no pressure from the world and no pressure of how to show up, who do you want to be in the short term? Like for the first 6 months, you imagine, oh man, I just want to sit by a campfire, not do shit. Love that. Well, who do you want to be after the 6 months is up? Who and how do you want your life to look? I did this for myself and now I'm 30, almost 7, and I really have the life I've always wanted. I really do. I have the life I've always wanted. But first it came with me being radically honest with myself about what I didn't want. I used to think I wanted to be like a CEO, boss lady, a millionaire. I used to think like I'm going to be rich and I'm going to drive the nice cars and I'm going to fucking Lululemon this shit up. And then I realized like, honestly, I don't care about money. I mean, I care about having money in the sense that I want to pay my bills, but I'm not motivated by money. I used to pretend I was. I used to pretend I was like, oh yeah, anything for $1. But now I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to do that. Like that feels bad. I don't want to do that. Marriage. The truth is like, I was always open to marriage, but I was only willing to marry somebody that I could really see doing life with. Otherwise I wasn't going to settle, which by the way, my parents gave me permission to do. My parents always said, never settle because you don't want to go through a divorce. And so my siblings, like only 3 of us are married and only 2 of us are in a healthy relationship. So like out of 10 kids, you know what I'm saying? Only 2 of us are in healthy relationships and like the rest are probably single and or some of them are still virginal because they're religious. So like, you know, we're not pressured in the family. Like there's not a lot of pressure to get married, even though there's a lot of societal pressure and my parents do put a certain level of pressure in the family. There is that pressure. It's not as bad as other people. Some people have like, you know, if you don't get married, like, oh my, your whole life's ruined. My parents didn't tell us that. My parents were like, you should get married, but don't get married to the wrong person. That meant that I was allowed to be single. So I never went to family gatherings worried that I was single. My brothers never went to family gatherings caring that they were single. We also liked being aunts and uncles. That's another part that I don't understand this culture. Like hating kids. You see when people say like they hate kids? I don't get you. Your friends are bringing a whole ass human being into existence. Life is about to change. And if you don't change your life when you have kids, you're kind of a bad parent. You should change your life. You can't be out here partying and drinking and smoking when you have children. So yeah, you need to change your life when you become a parent. You don't need to lose yourself to parenting, but you need to become the kind of person that can be responsible as a parent without losing themselves. This is the fear that I think people are really struggling with is, what if I lose myself though? What if I lose myself in reading the statistic? What if I lose myself in the fear? What if I lose myself in politics? What if I lose myself in my culture? What if I lose myself? And it's like, you don't have to lose yourself if you know who you are. The dilemma is that we're raised in a world that doesn't allow us to explore who we are. And the way they tell us to explore who we are is through capitalism, face masks and Sephora visits and hauls. You know what I mean? So of course you don't know who you are, right?
You know, like shitting in the woods behind Walmart with my headlamp, you know, positioning where the shade was going to be so I didn't wake up like a fucking hot chicken in an oven because the sun comes up. So I look at the one tree in the Walmart parking lot. I am telling you, I have lived the 4B life or whatever you want to call it for so long. And in fact, even though for me, one of the most dangerous things to do is to get married, also the bravest thing was to get married. For me, but not for some of y'all. For some of y'all, being alone is the bravest thing you can do because you've never done it. You didn't spend all your 20s, all your 30s, and early 40s alone. This bitch.
Yeah, Chad said dangerous. Her partner tried to kill her. So it was dangerous. It was the most dangerous thing she ever did. Her one experience of a relationship, and she said he tried to kill her, right? That's what she said. That's a pretty fucking traumatizing situation, right? So in her defense, it's pretty fucking traumatizing. You know, you're single your whole life and then the first guy you give a yes to fucking tries to kill you. That's crazy, right? Like I couldn't even imagine. That's like a lot to go through.
moved to France without speaking a word of French. Didn't.
You know what the problem with her storytelling is? Instead of it being an exciting thing where she was living her best life, it was almost like she was doing it while being bitter about it because she was running away, which she admits she was coping. You can't turn your cope into a lifestyle. Say it with me, girls. Your cope cannot become a lifestyle. You're allowed to cope temporarily to help you get through situations, but your cope cannot become a lifestyle. Yes, exactly. Escapism. Exactly, chat. You cannot practice escapism and say you found yourself. Okay? So that's the dilemma philosophically of the situation that we find a lot of these people in. And by the way, I do think the reason they get more views than, let's say, my channel is because, and I've gotten this feedback from people before, healed people are less interesting. Chelsea Fagan said this on the Financial Diet because people asked her, please feature couples that are happy. Like, can you please feature people that are in good marriages? And she said, you learn less from healthy people. It's more interesting to learn things from people who have been divorced. That's what Chelsea said. I disagree. I think you can learn plenty from healthy people, but I do think people prefer to watch people who are fucked or fucked up because it's more interesting. But I think that's the problem, isn't it? That's why Andrew Tate and all these men end up rising to fame, because that fucked upness is interesting to people. It's captivating to people, right? We've even got the Trisha Paytases of the internet right now that are going viral again because they have I think it's a 1 million sub family channel. And Trisha swore they would never put their kids on the internet for views. And now their kids are everywhere on the internet. We all think we know our values until we're tested. We end up garnering an audience too that wants to believe in us because, oh my God, we got better. Look at us, we've grown. But then they turn around and do the same thing. And who are all the freaks who are watching that channel? Who are all the grown-ups who are watching that channel? Stop watching little kids on the internet, bros. I know family vlogs seem innocent in the beginning, but they always turn out bad. I'm telling you.
Know anyone in Leon. I didn't know what the fuck I was going to do. Like, I cannot tell you how proud
But I think, you know what the thing about Mel is interesting? I think Mel's real, though. Like, I want to make that abundantly clear that I think she's authentic, and I think she's authentically wounded. And so I get a lot of empathy towards Mel, a lot of empathy towards all the women. I think it's real what they're going through. I do not think they're grifting. I do not think they're lying to you. I don't think they're trying to take your money. I think she's really going through it. And I think her audience is relating to it, which I would question. I would question where you are in your life that you're relating to the content. And you're not a bad person. It just means you have to heal more.
But I also I get why people are upset with her.
Sure.
I wish her all the best.
Right.
I have never been somebody who I'm the opposite of sprinkle. Opposite though of sprinkle is you get a homosexual. So you can't be either, right? You can't bankroll a man. Don't think that having money is going to protect you, because these hobos are just as bad as the ones who financially abuse you with money. I get why people are upset because of, I do think that, if you ever I'm never getting married. Okay, maybe not. Never having kids, maybe not. And I'm not saying that women who say that don't believe it. And that
it depends on why you say it. As example, my partner and I have decided we're not going to bring children into the universe. We made an adult decision to not bring a baby into the universe. I'm on birth control. We have doctor's appointments to do sterilization. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm saying it is different than being like, I'm never having kids. No. It's not about never having kids. I've made the decision to stop the ability for my body to produce a child. Or if for some crazy situation I get pregnant, we've decided to terminate the pregnancy. I'm allowed to change my mind. I'm certainly allowed to have kids. If my birth control fails, or the vasectomy fails, or if the tubal ligation fails, or in some way we're pregnant and we choose to bring a baby into the universe, I was allowed to change my mind at that time. If we did everything necessary to avoid pregnancy and still got pregnant, we can talk about it then. But theoretically, as of right now, we would terminate the pregnancy. And this is the problem with these conversations while we're having them. It's like, oh, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to get that. You don't know that. And also, I do believe that MJ always gave stipulations, because again, she always said, unless you were doing this or this or this, getting married, having a kid, financially, But the dilemma to this is when you make content that makes black and white statements with no understand, like your audience, okay, your audience can't be a real audience if they've misunderstood you this badly. So either you failed incredibly with your branding or your audience is stupid. And both are your fault. Both are your responsibility. It's either your responsibility for garnering an idiot audience, or you lied to your audience, or you misbranded yourself. Because I feel like my audience would absolutely understand most of the decisions I would make, because I'm like, oh yeah, I know why Brittany did that. You would understand why I might keep a pregnancy that survived all of these things I've taken step by step to prevent. You would also understand why I got an abortion. I have made my stance clear. I've communicated everything clearly. And at that point, I have garnered a smart audience that knows why I did things. A majority of them, like 99% of them, would know why I did it. And two, I'm consistent with my values, right? So the reason she's getting so much backlash is because there was a mistake in how she presented herself. Okay, let me show you something. Okay, good luck, Mel. We wish you the best. Okay, let me go here. Let me show you this. Okay, back to this video here from 4B. This is so much fun, guys. Thank you for being here. I'm having so much fun. Okay, and shout out to all these people because we're all on a journey. Okay.
And at the same time, I do think that women who are married to men or in serious partnerships with men cannot be the leaders of the decenter men movement, right? And I talked about this on my live last night, because if you are married to a man, the person that influences your way of thinking the most is probably going to be that man, you know, unless you have some kind of a non-traditional marriage where you're not spending very much time with him. But most women who are married to men, they spend the majority of their time with that man. That man is the one who they talk about their ideas with, and so he's influencing the way they think. Also, their income is typically tied to a man. Most women who are married combine finances with the man that they're married with. And some of these women actually are depending on men in some ways. Like I think in her live yesterday, YV Edit mentioned that
that's Lisa on the very left.
She needs her husband's job for health insurance, right? So to me, if you depend on a man for your livelihood in some way or another, you can't fully decenter men, right? Because you're always going to be like a little bit dependent on them. And also, if you're in a close, loving relationship with a man, I don't think that you can be as radically feminist as you might want to be. When you go out to spaces with other women, you can be that way. But when you're with that man, you do have to sort of be careful about the way you're speaking so that you don't like offend him, right? Or that you don't offend him too much, right? And I'm guessing that Mel Hamlet and YV's husbands don't get offended as easily as most men, right? Because of the fact that they do talk about feminism a lot. But still, I think everybody has an ego, right? And everybody can feel sensitive about certain topics. And so there's just certain things like that they won't be able to discuss with these men that they would be able to discuss if they didn't have a man in their house, right? So I just think that married women can be an important and valid part of the decenter men movement. I don't think that they should be the leaders of it. But here's the thing that...
Pause. Okay. So much to talk about. So first, I obviously disagree. Two, I think she's right, but she's wrong. I'll tell you. In my 20s, I really struggled to decenter men while being in a relationship with one. The reason it was a struggle is because the men I was dating, though liberal, were misogynists and were sexists. And I didn't process that until later because they were left-leaning, they were bisexual, they were open-minded, they were blah, 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 blah. Okay, they themselves did not adhere to typical patriarchal standards of what it meant to be a man. But when their ego was hurt, when we had discussions about money, when anything went wrong, all of a sudden the argumentation was men suffer, men are neglected. What about men's feelings? And I'm like, what's happening? What's going on? And I would get really confused. Now that I'm in my 30s and I got married at 33, or I didn't get married at 33, but I found my partner at 33. I think that's the right math. That might be the wrong math. Yeah, whatever. I think it was 33. The point is that when that happened the next time around, it wasn't about the gender of the person. It was about the philosophical perspective of the person. So I think she's right that if you're dating a man who isn't deconstructed or decentered men himself, it's hard. But men also need to practice decentering patriarchy, i.e. decentering men. So to be clear, I think a lot of these spaces are necessary as stepping stones out of liberation, like into liberation. But that's why I say, where are you at in your liberation personally? Because I did need these spaces. I needed these women only spaces. I needed these spaces that just ruthlessly hated men because we were also sick of the bullshit and the predatory behavior. And also, eventually, these spaces were no longer for me. And as I'm on a deconstruction journey when it comes to my gender, I no longer identify as a woman in this way. I don't relate to this. I am a queer person. I want to be in a space with queer people. I want to be in a space with all genders. I don't care about your gender. I want to know if you care about it, right? So here's a look, my favorite non-binary gender philosopher. And this is where I'm at in my life. You've heard this before. I want new people to hear it now.
I'm non-binary, which means it's not just that I'm challenging the binary between male, female, man, woman.
Pause. And a look was assigned male at birth. And I think the fear I have with these girls in these spaces is like, is a look a man to you? Because they're not. And that's where I am. I'm a queer person. I am a gender fluid person. Like, I'm a man. Can I come? Like, that's the question. Now, there is some liberal reaction to this is like, no, you can't come. If Brittany's a man, she can't come. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to go anyways. If you're creating a group where queer men can't come, or queer non-binary people can't come, or queer or trans men can't come, I don't need to be there either. But I do think those spaces should exist because some people need them. But I think ultimately, and this is hard, my most ideal space would be very gender inclusive and very focused on deconstructing and decentering patriarchy, which means when you decenter patriarchy, you also decenter gender as the focus of action. So if you decenter men, which I assume you mean patriarchy, you also decenter the idea that men and women play roles. But if you're not decentering men, then you believe every woman that's ever dating a man can ever date a man who decenters patriarchy? So therefore, you don't think you can actually dismantle patriarchy or deconstruct it from your consciousness. Versus I do. I think you can. I'm living in a gender-free marriage right now, right? Like, I'm living in a gender-free marriage right now. It's the greatest experience of my life. And also, right?
But between us and them. And in your statement, you said, why don't I help them, as if this struggle is not your struggle too? The reason you don't fight for me is because you're not fighting for yourself fully. And any movement that's trying to emancipate men from the shackles of heteropatriarchy, or emancipate women from traditional gender ideology, has to have trans and non-binary people at the forefront, because we are actually the most honest. We're tracing the root. Where do these ideas of manhood and womanhood come from? They come from a binary structure. And so that's why people like me, who are visibly gender nonconforming, who are both feminine and masculine and none of the above, we experience the brunt of all of these collective fantasies that were created that are killing other people, that are also killing us. It just looks different. Don't show up for me because you want to protect me or you want to help me. I don't need your help. I have an unshakable and irrevocable sense of who I am because I am divine. I come from people who were exterminated and targeted by colonists because the gender binary was superimposed on Black people, Indigenous people, and people of color by European colonists. And the reason that they targeted us is because they knew our power, right? So the reason that there's so much animus against me is because of my power. I don't need to be legitimized, or I don't have anything to prove. What I want us to rephrase the conversation is, are you ready to heal? And I don't think the majority of people are ready to heal. And that's why they repress us as trans and gender variant people, because they've done this violence to themselves first. They've repressed their own femininity. They've repressed their own gender nonconformity. They've repressed their own ambivalence. They've repressed their own creativity. And so when they see us have the audacity to live a life without compromise, where we say there are no trade-offs, where we say we actually get to carve in the marrow of this earth and create our own goddamn beauty, instead of saying thank you for teaching me another way to live, they try to disappear us because they did that to themselves first. So I guess I would rephrase your question to be, can you help me get free? not can you help me help you?
I think this is so important, and it's layered, of course, but I think that that's where I'm at personally. So when I see MJ going through what she's going through and the way people feel abandoned by her and they feel like it's such a struggle and they have to grieve the fact that she's getting married, what they're really saying is I'm grieving that attachment to outcome that I've centered my identity on, which ironically enough is obviously coming at the expense of their joy. So decenter celebrities and TikTokers, decenter other women as much as other men. I don't know why you would center your life on what another person was doing anyways, right? You need to center your life on your values and your sense of meaning, and you need to be good to yourself and to others, okay? So when we have these conversations, it's very interesting that women are saying, this woman is saying, that married women can't be the face of the decenter men movement. Okay, I agree, because it sounds like you guys have something going on. I don't want to be a part of this movement, because this movement to me feels maybe necessary for a lot of women deconstructing heterosexuality and patriarchy for the first time. But for a lot of us that are way beyond that at this point, we're so far from that at this point. I know a lot of people in my audience are way past that, and that's okay. Like wherever you are, that's valid. But obviously, I can't stay here and not be miserable. It's, you know what, this kind of, then the example I'm going to use, please forgive me, but the example I want to use is a little bit like, Drew Afualo has a whole, in her book, she talks about how she was mad at her lesbian sister for not coming out to her. And then she realized she centered her sister's coming out on herself and her feelings. You need to learn when you're centering other people's decisions on your feelings, instead of saying, I love you, and I'm realizing now that like, I feel like I'm losing you. And I feel like, oh my God, I thought it was important enough for you to tell me this, but now I recognize that like, I wasn't a safe space for you. I wasn't the person, because you would have come to me if you could. And look at the way when you told me I rejected you, right? When I talk about the friend who was upset with me talking about white men on my stream, instead of coming to me and just saying, you know, I don't resonate with your content and I'm worried that it's going to impact our friendship, it was, hey, are you mentally ill? So again, people center their pain as the most important thing, which is why men do that too. What about men? Men do that. They hear the 62 million number and they go, but I'm not that guy. I wouldn't do that stuff. Right? You have Russell Brand sitting here talking about how like, oh, I did at the time when I was young and immature, 30, sleep with a 16-year-old. And it's like, we all do it at some time in our life. But the point is, at some point, you got to stop doing it, or you're not going to be safe to have in the community. Okay? I'm not saying you're evil. I'm not saying you're the worst person ever, but you are definitely engaging in philosophical evil. So your sense of value is shaken. And also, it doesn't even stop there. A lot of these men who have problems with me, they are dating women half their age. So the issue isn't there. The issue is my work. It's frustrating to them because they're the target of it, even if they don't want to admit it. I am talking about men who are dating women half their age, and the men in my life are like, hey, why are you making content about this? And I'm saying, because you're the problem. Most of my content is very inspired by like what's happening in my life. I have a video over on my commentary channel called Don't Move In With Your Boyfriend. Just, you don't have to, but you can, right? I love living with partners. Live with your partner, but you don't have to. You do not need to live with somebody for real, to share a lease with someone for real, to get to know them. You can get to know them by staying at their house for months at a time. You don't have to sign a lease with them. You know what I'm saying? But some people might hear that and be like, oh my God, are you calling me a predator? I don't know. Are you 30 and is she 19? Yeah, I'm calling you a predator. But they don't want to be known as a predator. Now, the issue is that's a defense mechanism. These men are hurt. They don't see themselves as predators. Why would you call me that? But that's how I look at some of these women when I say, oh, feels like you're kind of going through it. Feels like you're still centering men. Now, I get it, because sometimes I really do make a lot of content about men and gender dynamics. I mean, I hate to tell you guys this, but the boys pay the bills. They're angry. They're primarily on the internet, and men share content because they hate women. If the girls in my audience would like to share more of my content with their friends, I maybe wouldn't have to do that. But because you have jobs and you volunteer and you touch grass, you don't share my content enough. And who shares my content? Angry men on the internet. So sometimes I have to make content about things I want to talk about and make sure boys are going to click on it. Yeah, that's strategic. That is a strategy. Also, there's another layer to this, that I am a man. So I also find myself in circles that are about topics that men generally like to talk about. That's the other part that's hard. Politics is one of them. Do you know that? Politics is one of them. I love politics, but it's mostly a male-centered genre. So again, as somebody who's always kind of like the only girl around, I don't want to be the only girl here. Where are the other ladies? Hello? Can someone else show up, please? Where are the genderqueer people? Well, we're not hanging out in these groups. So because it's toxic. I barely want to be associated. I just like the topics. I don't want to be involved. So, we're all struggling out here to figure it out. So what these girls did is they came together to create a community. They came together to create, now they're together. Now, I understand a while back, I think the girlies tried to make me a part of this group. And I was like, Not the main girlies, but I think the audiences were like, wait, you don't like Lisa? Wait, it's not that I don't like Lisa. I just don't want to hang out. I'm happy to hang out, but I don't want to hang out. I'm happy to collab, but also, we're not doing the same thing, right? I love Public Offender, and I know they've collabed, but we're not doing the same thing. Even though it sounds like we are, we're not. Because I am the girly who's not to be philosophically nuanced, but actually gender's a construct, in a very deep way. Right? Yeah, chat says the Saikuno video you did was fire, holding these men accountable. And how did they react? They were mad. They were mad. How dare you say this? And that's the other thing. By the way, I try really hard to pick and choose when I censor comments, because when I censor comments, I lose virability. YouTube punishes me when I censor comments. But then my audience has to be subjected to reading comments from these horrible men calling rape victims losers. And I have to pick and choose. Am I willing to have a comment section that's verbally abusive? Or am I here to grow my channel and make sure that I'm a player in the game? It's a tough game out here under patriarchy, girls, let me tell you. Right? Jess had a question, how should we respond to men who say I didn't know her age or there's nothing wrong, 18 and 19 is an adult? First of all, you need to check IDs and get informed consent. Second of all, 18 and 19 is a legal adult. Is it ethical? Is it moral? Okay. It depends on the person. Are they actually asking, or are they playing games with you and they don't actually give a fuck? Okay. That's the dilemma. Okay. Now, when she says, I don't think women who center men or are in love can be the center of the movement, what they're really admitting to is oh, Drew Afualo being in love, oh, gross. I can't believe Drew's in love. How, if this is your statement that women who are partnered can't be the center of the movement, what is this movement for? Who is it for? And that's the question I have for all of these women who also are a part of this movement and why I don't want to become a part of it. Probably because I'm not a straight woman. You know what I mean? What do queer people have to do with this movement? Nothing. You notice that? None of these women are queer. None of these women are queer philosophically. Not just being gay, but being queer. So I'm saying as a queer person, this is not the space for me. But as a queer person, I also know, hey, ladies, I think you need some queer philosophy in your life, even if you're not queer, because you are suffering so unnecessarily. And it's because their work still centers men. Now, let's hear from Lisa about MJ.
The discourse is going, but I would need to participate in it on the level that some of y'all are participating in it. I'm going to need you to state the crime and the victims. What I'm witnessing here is a lot of misogyny surrounding a truly victimless crime. I'm gonna need a statement from the prosecution, because what are we discussing here? Because if the crime is hypocrisy, that's not a crime. If hypocrisy is the crime, then throw the first stone.
Okay, first of all, I think that's really true too, because what did MJ do, girls? What did she do? And then again, it comes down to branding. Did MJ misbrand herself, or did she lie? Or did you guys misunderstood what was happening, right? Misunderstand. Also, to my Discord and everybody else, guys, when I say share the content, I don't mean to your friends and family. I wonder if my audience is not online enough to know, because it's a majority women. When YouTubers say share the content, they're not talking about to your personal friends and family. Reddit, Twitter, public spaces, they're saying share it to the internet, because the numbers are not going to come from your family members. Your family and friends watching YouTubers you like, never going to happen. Your family and you sharing it with strangers, much more likely to have it happen. So if you're on Reddit, share my content. If you're on Twitter, share the content. If you're in a forum and everyone's debating feminism, drop a video. But that's what that means. You know what I mean? Chet says, I'm scared of the men on the internet berating you. That's very true. But listen to me when I say this. Am I going to be a player or not? Am I going to be a player or not? Because if I'm not going to be a player, then I'm never actually going to do this thing for real. You either have to become a player or not. And it's either like become like get videos with high enough views that the audience like expands out, or it's be fan funded. But girls, I'm not big enough to be fan funded, and I'm not going to ask you for money when you know for a fact groceries are expensive. So let these men pay my bills by giving me views. You know what I'm saying? Let these angry men on the internet pay my rent. You know what I mean? They're going to do it anyways. You know, I can handle it. I can handle strange men on the internet. Strange men on the internet do not bother me. You know what I mean? Like, those people do not bother me. It's harder when it's a YouTube community coming at you because you're like, what the fuck is this? And I don't want to make drama with them. But if it's rando boys on the internet, girl, I do not care.
And then put your life on social media, and then we'll judge that. Because honestly, like, the way that it's almost just automatic for us, like, as a society, at the first sign of anything less than perfection from a woman, all of a sudden it's discourse. All of a sudden it's, what do you think? I don't know what the crime is. I'm struggling to see what she did to deserve this. Genuinely, like, this is a victimless crime happening. A bad marriage is its own punishment. Oh, but she told other women not to get married. Yeah, and so do I, and I'm married. Oh, but she built a plot.
That's true. I always tell women, I always tell people not to settle, but I'm married and I didn't settle. Listen to me when I say this. Do not get married unless you know for a fact this is the person you want to do life with. If you get married, you're not a bad person. Divorce is just paperwork. Don't beat yourself up. But also, it's like, don't move in with your boyfriend. I've moved in with plenty of boyfriends. That's how I know. Don't move in with your boyfriend. But if you move in with your boyfriend, girl, I'm going to celebrate you. If my friend called me and said, hey, I'm moving in with my boyfriend, I'm like, oh my God, fun. And as long as my friend knows she doesn't have to. Because there's like, I think we grew up conservative and everyone's like, don't live with your boyfriend, you're a slut. And then women were like, I'm going to move in with the boy I just met off the internet after 2 weeks. And I'm like, pause. Why are you signing legal paperwork with somebody you just met? Now, with somebody you just met there's a caveat to this, right? Because some people say, I can't believe you got engaged in 6 months. Yeah, but I really know myself. You don't know yourself. We are not the same. In the same way, I didn't know myself in my 20s. That's why I was moving in with the boys and signing leases. But I know myself in my 30s. And best decision I ever made. And by the way, in just a little while here, I will have been with my married partner longer than I ever had a long dating relationship with somebody else. So I'm already beating my past records in just a few while here, which means like I already have the data that tells me like, yep, this was good. Because I'll tell you that with all my exes, everybody, men, women, non-binary people, day one, I should have known better. Day one, it was obvious we weren't on the same page. But I ignored the value differences because I thought, but I really like them and we liked each other and it was so fun, right? The difference here is I didn't date for potential and I married the person that they were and I like who they are every day. There's the difference. So I get it. She told you not to get married. But here's the thing, ladies, men, they, thems, you don't have to listen to YouTubers. I need you to really understand this. Just because your favorite said it on a YouTube video doesn't matter. Even if I say it. Just because I said it doesn't mean it matters. You have to make this adult decision for yourself. I trust you. Trust yourself. If you don't trust yourself, meditate on it. Go to therapy, do the work, read a book. But like, do not watch MJ or me or anybody else and think, well, Brittany wouldn't do this. Would you do this? Your values come before anybody else's. That's why I don't make prescriptions. That's why I don't tell you, you should do this. I say, if this is the result you want, this is what I would do. Because I trust you to know what you need in your life. I really do.
Platform on being a man hater. No, she didn't. It was one of my earliest mutuals, one of my earliest follows. She did not build a brand off of hating men. She just had a disproportionate number of videos go viral that happened to be her talking about men because that's the content that TikTok chose to push out. Anyone saying she's a grifter and made money off of this, like, I can tell y'all right now that is not true. I made $200 on TikTok last month. The RPM for these things is like 0.06.
There it is. Yeah. I heard it's really bad.
Cents per every 1,000 qualifying views. This shit is not a good grift. Some of y'all are acting like that money came straight out of your pockets or something like that. You don't pay us. We are unfortunately doing it because it's something that we believe in. Another really outlandish thing I keep hearing people say is like, oh, this is just her dating strategy. Like, she's just trying to keep other women out of the dating pool so that there's more men for
Oh my God, I'm going to show you a video about this in a second. Hold on.
That's already available to her. Like that, do you know what I'm saying? Like that's already available to her. She could take most people's man if she wanted to. And I'm not even saying that as like a compliment. Like that's not a compliment. Men are fucking easy. You guys are giving men way too much credit. Like you do not ever have to worry about another woman like gatekeeping the dating pool because the men are always going to be there. They
Okay, wait, pause. Wait, look. Hold on. Okay, then I found this video. Okay, red flag from women on the internet uses words like hypergamy. If I hear the word hypergamy come out of your mouth, I'm gonna stop listening. So I found this woman named Chrissy who had an opinion about MJ, and listen to her advice. Listen to this.
Also said this in other videos, but most women who are trying to convince other women, and especially Black women, out of leveling up or dating and marrying up are doing that because they don't want you to level up and surpass them or get a man who's better than theirs. I keep telling y'all that women are very competitive. And I've said before that a lot of these staunch feminists who come online, especially these white liberal women who get online and encourage or condone other women to make decisions that they would never make or to do things that they would never teach their own daughters to do. You got to take what they say with a grain of salt because these women will get online and they'll condone.
So this is MJ.
Stuff that they don't.
Right? Please don't get married. And then, yes, I'm engaged. This is awkward.
Don't even live by. They'll get on here and condone the hypersexuality of Black women or condone baby mama culture or hypogamy. Meanwhile, they're hypergamous. They're conservative.
Yeah.
They would never have a baby outside of wedlock or a baby with a bum. And they would never date or marry a broke or uneducated man. But
Okay. I will say this is also true though. She is right. Chrissy is right. Technically, there is something to this that there are types of white women who often are not liberal. They only pretend to be liberal. They're often actually Republicans and often actually MAGA who aren't religious, but are capitalistic or pretend they're liberal, but vote Trump, who do get on the internet and will tell women not to do these things, but will engage in some variation of when I do it, it's classy. When you do it, it's not. And there's a racist element. There's an intersectionality here that I think exists between white women seeking liberation through, as an example, sexual activity and when Black women do it. So when Black women are sexually liberated, it doesn't look like liberation. And when white women do it, it looks like liberation. I think there's something here that does need to be talked about for sure. And I think there's something really real about that. Like how many Black women on TikTok are in this group of people we're talking about? None. Notice that? Now I watch them because I am on Black TikTok. So I can watch 5 or 6 or 10 of these women who are doing the same thing these white women are doing, but they're not getting any of the views and they're never included in the group. Notice how I showed you a picture of that 4B movement girl and it was 3 white women? Because those are the faces of the movement. But they're not the only ones who exist. But they're the ones who get promoted. They're the ones the internet makes famous, right?
Will call us elitist or classist for encouraging women to do the same thing. It's concerned.
But I do think, and you remember the Black lady who said she doesn't do coffee dates, and in her bubble, a coffee date is like the sign of like a brokey. And I do think there's something about that. But I would also encourage you to recognize that in a customized relationship, a coffee date could be perfectly fine. Because only if you're dating from the script of patriarchy or cultural does that say to you a coffee date is bad. Because in the bubble I grew up in, if a man took you out on a really expensive dinner, he wants something from you. Versus if it's a coffee date or a stroll around town, it means he's serious about you. So every bubble is different. But I would say that you need to date on your own in your own custom framework. So when I left my toxic years and I turned 30, in the 30 years I was single, from my last crap relationship to my now married partner, during those 3 years, I went on first dates and I basically never wanted to get to a second. And the rule was every time I've done this in the past, I learned that I have a habit, probably because I'm autistic, to think the best of everybody. And to the point where I like look at red flags and I kind of see them as pink. And like pink's a pretty color. So what I learned was I'm not going to do that anymore. So one of my favorite first date questions to ask people is like, what would you do if we had trans kids? What would you do if we had a kid and they came out to us as trans? And this is like an easy first date ender. Especially if you're dating a man, it's the fastest way to get a man to be like, oh, like to show his true colors. And if they pass that test, like they answer right the way that I would answer if I had a trans kid, then there are other questions I'm going to ask on that first date, because I already dated second, third date. I already moved in with people. I've already done the whole thing. I've already introduced people to my family. I've already done the whole thing. In my 30s, it was like, look, you're either going to be the person or you're not. My now married partner, our first date was 8 hours and he said it felt like an interrogation, but look, we're married. So you're welcome. We're also neurodivergent. We're also always deconstructing. We're always talking about philosophy. We're very much on the same page. We're doing life truly together. It's the best experience I've ever had. I highly recommend it. But I also recommend finding your high compatibility partner and never settling for one that isn't. If you're going to settle strategically, I suppose, but I just don't recommend it. Better to be single and thriving. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing wrong with being single, but you really have to deconstruct that need to even think of single as a bad thing. Who cares if you're single, right? If you're holding judgment that you're less than because you're single, you're still holding on to patriarchy, right?
And it's covert competition, ladies. That's what it is. And also, MJ is a white woman, ladies. They are some of the most competitive and hypergamous women on the planet. So I'm not sure why black women in particular keep believing these white feminists who come on TikTok and say what they say. I already told y'all that they're pandering. The same goes for all the women who get online and complain about their husbands and their boyfriends. They're not leaving their men, y'all. They're not leaving them. They just want somebody to vent to for a minute. Now, in MJ's case, maybe it's not about competition. It could just be that she fell in love and she changed her mind. And listen, it is not a crime to change your mind. Y'all know I came on here pro-black, anti-swirl. Then I had to burn the cape after I got a better understanding of the black male collective and the black community and how anti-black women they were. And I course corrected quickly. So I don't think anything is wrong with changing, but when you do, it's very important to come out and explain the shift and go into detail about the reasons why you changed, and even apologize to your audience if you need to. Don't gaslight them and make it seem like what they're seeing isn't real. This actually reminds me of the black feminists who came out against the black femininity and black women in luxury and hypergamy content, all to end up taking the advice later and pretty much becoming the type of women that they criticized before, and then bragging about it like they weren't just shitting on the content. I saw one feminist bring a gay man on her platform to encourage black women to be hypergamous, and she was one of the main ones who pushed back on the black woman hypergamy movement online, and she didn't come back and correct it. She didn't say nothing, and I was like, damn, I could never get away with that. But when we call these women out, they pretend that they were always about that life and didn't change. And it's like, it's not a crime if you change. Just stand in your truth and admit it and hold yourself accountable and do it with your full chest.
I mean, that was the problem, right? Hypergamy, guys, is just it's a belief mostly pushed by the red pill community that like women are hypergamous. They always date someone who makes more money than them or someone who's in a better position of them. Like I think Jordan Peterson and trash like that usually spread stuff like that. Like women date men who are in a higher class than them, and blah 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 blah. But I will say the issue sort of with this, with all of this commentary, is it always is coming from a very specific place. You got to think about that place. As in contrast to the content, look at this TikTok by a gay guy.
When men care about body counts, it's so strange to me, and it is part of like the patriarchy and putting women down, because if you look at gay male relationships, we are still men. None of us have those issues. No one as a gay man looks over at other guys and be like, well, he's fucking ran through. If you like someone, you like someone. It doesn't matter who they it doesn't matter how many guys they've had sex with, because we're all men and we get it. But then they put women in this equation, and all of a sudden it's like trying to control their sexual lives. It's so strange to me, because when it's just men on men, it's not an issue. Obviously, I'm sure lesbians don't care about that either. But that straight man heterosexual relationship between men and women, all of a sudden it's like women become like properties and their value goes down if they have sex a bunch of times. It's like, get over it. And I think a lot of it is due to the fact that straight men have a harder time getting sex because, obviously pussy is a supply chain issue and not every guy can get it. But girls can always be able to get fucked because they're girls. It's like whenever guys are like, I can't believe how many men you've had sex with, I'm like, get fucked.
This is not true, but I'll let it slide.
Who cares? I just can't imagine. I mean, sure, if it's like a Bonnie Blue situation, maybe you don't want to date the girl who had 1,000 cocks in her in one day. I get it. You know what I mean? Like, that's a personal preference. But a girl who's like fucked 20 or 30 guys in her early 20s, I mean, like, that's not like that. That's not much at all. It just makes me feel sick to my stomach. And whenever guys are like that, I'm like, you small dick fucking loser. It really is unfair.
Okay, leave the small dicks alone. Hello? The point is that it's interesting these conversations happen differently in different communities. And by the way, I just want to say to validate Chrissy, because again, I don't know Chrissy's content very well. I've seen a few of her videos, but I want to say Chrissy is bringing in the intersectionality of being a black woman and being in these communities, because white women will shame black women for seeking a man with some sort of stability. And white women will say, oh my God, like you're so snobby. Like who cares if he doesn't have a job? Like it's not all about money. But when you're a black woman in America under white supremacy in the United States who's living under capitalism, there's a invisible intersectionality. There's an intersection that the white women don't know about and don't see. So it conveys something differently. Like if the black community is telling us in certain specific areas, a coffee date is from a brokey, from a guy who's literally a bum, then you can't take that into another bubble that's like, oh, a coffee date, like my guy's a billionaire, but he wears like white t-shirts from Target, like he's so humble. Okay, what does that have to do with this community here that's having this different relationship? Like it's kind of like when people brag about what are things rich people can do that poor people can't do without it being trashy: drugs, wearing the same clothes over and over again, shopping on Amazon, you know, stuff like. So there's like an issue here that I think is hard for people to process. So be careful who you're getting advice from, and be careful the bubble you're listening to. Remember, a lot of black women, there's a woman going viral right now who's all about capitalism. You know what I mean? Chet says this isn't why black women go against coffee dates. Apparently that was the feedback I got back. If you guys want to educate me in a different way, you can. When I covered this before, people were saying that's what they told me. I don't know. Bubbles are all different. Everyone's different. Being black is not a monolithic experience. All black people are different everywhere. So that was what the community was telling me. I could be wrong. If somebody wants to update me, that's what I was told, right? So I don't know, right? That's what I was told. So when we have these conversations and we have to understand like who is telling us what, we have to think about, are they coming from a capitalistic perspective? Are they coming from a religious perspective? Are they coming from, what perspective are they coming from? Because it's going to change how you take the advice, which is why I showed you a look, because I wanted them to be the focus, because a look's fashion sense, the way they present is really a good indication of where somebody is, right? It's a good indication of where somebody is in terms of like, oh, a man should never wear lipstick. Or is he a man? Like even calling him a man, like even saying like that is a man, you know, that will give me an idea of like where this person is, right? Is a look non-binary? Are you going to validate their pronouns? All of that stuff. Okay. Now, I want you, do you guys remember the Wizard Liz went through something where hold on. Let me show this to you. And shout out to everybody I'm talking about. At the end of the day, everyone's on a journey. Okay, when we covered the Wizard Liz before, right? There was a whole controversy with her ending up with like a loser guy. Now, Wizard Liz runs into the same problem. Almost 9 million subscribers, but it's still centering men. It's still centering men at the end of the day. Her content is red pill for women. Yes, it's healthier than red pill, but it's not that much healthier. It only feels healthier because the bar is in fucking hell. If you are making content that's slightly better than red pill, congratulations, you're healthier. It's not worth bragging about. But because women are so desperate and suffering under patriarchy, it feels like liberation. Here's MJ's reaction to the Wizard Liz situation, okay?
Okay, a lot of you are asking me to comment on the whole Wizard Liz situation, and I don't want to feel like I'm like profiting or like exploiting someone's.
Just a reminder, she got pregnant from a guy she got engaged with and thought she was in love with him, but then found out he cheated, and it was a whole thing.
Tragedy. I think that's absolutely devastating what's happened to her. I can't imagine how she's feeling right now, especially considering the fact that she's 4 months pregnant. And I feel like, you know, what can I really say? I feel like anything that I could say in the situation, like how I genuinely feel, is going to get me into trouble. But what's new? I could never trust a man, and I would never judge or condemn a woman for trusting a man. I personally could never trust a man. I absolutely not. I've loved men and I've cared about men, and I've had, you know, I care deeply about.
So my belief is like, first of all, that's a crazy statement. It's a traumatized statement. It's a bad statement. It's just like it's not reasonable. Okay. I don't trust patriarchy because patriarchy is evil. I don't trust patriarchal men. I trust them to be what they are. I trust them in different ways. I trust I trust some men who engage in patriarchy for different things. I trust a lot of my brothers. They adhere to patriarchy, but a lot of them are pretty trustworthy. A lot of them aren't. It depends on the brother. I got 8 of them, right? So when she says this, this is the type of settling in marriages that I have a problem with, where people go, I don't trust a man, but I'll marry him. That's why I don't like Shira's work. Sprinkle, sprinkle. And rest in peace to her partner who just died. But it's kind of one of those things where I think the issue with these women, and I really do think Shira loved him. Like, you would see it on her. She was really grieving. But I think the problem with these women is they promote settling relationships because of patriarchy. Shira always talks about patriarchy. But the solution isn't to liberate yourself out of patriarchy. It's the belief that you never can. I have done it. You don't have to believe me. I've liberated myself out of patriarchy. I've liberated myself out of my body. I've liberated myself out of my gender. You can do this through philosophy and mental health stuff. You can go to therapy. You can do you got to do both though. You can do it. You don't have to do it. People are doing it. It's just not the norm, because in the way the world is set up, you have to operate as man, woman, binary, right? But when you live in the non-binary, when you live in between the binary, when you dance between the binary, you're having a completely different experience. And I'm saying it's personal. Obviously, the world is still shit and we have to protest and vote. But it's personally, when you get home, your relationships, you get to customize your romantic relationship. I would never get married if I didn't trust my partner the way I trust myself. Never. And so regardless of gender, if I cannot trust you the way I trust myself, I would never do life with you. And I don't trust almost anybody the way I trust myself. Actually, the only person I trust the way I trust myself is my partner. Not even my bestie of 30 years, not even my sister, not even all my brothers, not even my mother. Nobody has ever earned that for me but this person. Now, hear me out. They're still not me, though. Even though I trust them the way I trust myself, they're still not me, though. So if they make a bad decision, if they ever become abusive, girl, I'm going to sign those divorce papers tomorrow. And I want you to know this, because I have this feeling that, let's say my partner beat me. Let's say my partner tried to strangle me to death. And then I came on the internet and said, my partner tried to strangle me to death and I got a divorce. There would be people in my comment section saying, oh, I guess it wasn't perfect then. Oh, I guess you were wrong then. I guess high compatibility relationships don't exist then. Oh, I guess love isn't all it takes then. Oh, see how you were wrong? That's what I'm worried you are doing to maybe MJ or other people on the internet. You are trapping women in their life instead of giving people a choice to adapt to the new present moment. And I'm saying you can't account for what people will do. I can't account for what my partner will do. I can only have the faith and trust in myself that I chose a good person. But if they turn out to be a bad person, okay, what does that have to do with me? Like, what does that have to do with me? Now, you think it does have to do with me because you're saying, oh, it's a reflection of your choices. Not if you're duped, girl. With all the data at hand, everybody likes my partner. My friends like my partner. My family likes my partner. We would all be duped. And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying at this point, I've done my due diligence. I'm not going to be so paranoid that I'm not going to let myself fall in love because they might be a bad person. I did my due diligence. If they decide to be a bad person in the future, it is what it is. What are you going to do? Get divorced, move on with your life. Okay? It will be devastating, but it will be what it is. Humans are going to human. We're animals on a planet, literally. I think we're animals. So when people sit there and they make decisions based off their audience, you have to be careful as an audience that you are going to push MJ or other people, not even MJ, into what? Never getting married or having kids because you're going to be mad at them? Like, think about what you're doing as an audience. And then think about why, as content creators, people don't tell you what's going on. Right? This is why I say, like, even when I talk about YouTube and I go, no, don't give me your advice. You're not YouTubers. I didn't ask for your advice. If I ask for your advice, I'll tell you. Right? Guys, do you have a good recipe for pancakes? You guys came through. I've been eating them like crazy. Right? But I'm not asking you advice on my marriage. I'm good. I also have family and friends. I'm at work right now, right? That's the dilemma with MJ and all these people is like, I don't even know if you know you're at work right now, but you have to take the responsibility of what you branded yourself with and how you talk about people. Same with the wizard Liz. I'm proud of Liz for at least the thing she did when she came out of that engagement is she owned it. She talked about it. And then she ended up sending money, thousands of dollars to single mothers in need. So once again, women, regardless of our pain, turn around and give back to the community. Okay, at least they didn't shoot up their whole family and kill their wives and children because they were going through divorce court like these two other men did this week. Okay, these women instead sent people money and said, well, fuck it. What are you going to do? Remember that.
Got my ex-boyfriends and we're still friends. Like I've had love for men. I've never trusted a man. Ever. Even the men that I've loved in my past, I would not trust them. I've never met a man who was not driven by his lust. If there's one theme that all of the men that I've ever known, whether I dated them or otherwise, there's one theme that they all had, is that they are absolutely controlled by their lust. Which is why I would never marry a man, and why I think if I am going to enter some kind of relationship with a man, I have to be getting some kind of, what's the word for it? Collateral. If you would like to date me, I need collateral. I need to look back on our relationship together and feel like I got something out of it for when and if you betray me and waste my time. And that is what I preach to you guys. So when people are like, oh, MJ, why is she giving relationship advice? She's not in a relationship. I don't want to be in a relationship. I sleep like a baby at night because I don't worry about some man running around and cheating on me. I use men for what they're good for. And what they're good for depends on the man. But otherwise, no, not at all. I don't regularly consume Liz's content. It's not particularly my cup of tea, although I think she's great. And I hope that I'm so happy for her success. But from that one video she did with the Q&A of her in Landon, there were so many times in that video where I was like, oh, yep. And that's why I'm not a very fun person to be friends with. Because if you're friends with me, I'm going to point those things out to you with your relationship. And I see it all the time. Any man who says you should trust men as a woman is lying to you.
Any man who says you should trust men as a woman is lying to you. Well, I think the dilemma, my dad always told me never trust men. My dad always told me, Betsy, men are perverts. All men want one thing from you. And I was like, oh, you're a man. So this is the problem with sending out this message, because we were raised with this message. Never trust a man. All men are disgusting. Also marry a man and he will be your protector. Also worship a man called Jesus. Which one is it? Because if all men only want one thing from me, then Jesus can stay away from me too. That's the problem. So you have to deconstruct the messages you were sent and recognize in which ways men did protect you. My father protected me in many ways, and he dropped the ball in many ways as well. My brothers have protected me in many ways, and they've dropped the ball in many ways as well, right? My mother has protected me in many ways and dropped the ball as well. Like, the thing is like, we've all dropped the ball. The point is, are you going to pick it up again and do right by the people, right? So when we have these conversations, I can see it as a protective measure. It's a cope. And it's a cope that says to me, get closer to the left, deconstruct, eradicate gender dynamics from your brain, right? The red pill patriarchal misogynist will hear this and say, this bitch just wants to be married. See, women are such hoes. They just want to get married. And they're denying. No talking, right? The men, be quiet. Men with microphones, be quiet. But the point is that a lot of women aren't actually ever going to fully deconstruct the patriarchy. Because to deconstruct patriarchy is to deconstruct capitalism. Woo! Just like to deconstruct capitalism is to deconstruct anti-blackness. Woo! And most of you are not going to do that. Most of the people aren't doing it right now. Otherwise, we'd be in a very different country. Ow, I just hit myself in the face. Otherwise, we'd be in a very different country. Okay? So obviously, she's not going to do that. She's like hanging out at the Ritz-Carlton, whatever, spending her money, whatever, right?
Proposals. I have had wealthy men want to marry me before. I did not want to marry them. My bio has always said supermodel billionaire. Since the first day, it has said supermodel billionaire. Have I made videos where I was like, I don't really like the consumerism stuff? Yes. I've made a lot of contradictory videos because this whole account has been a stream of authentic consciousness. It has just been me showing up at whatever phase that I'm at in my life, honestly, as a coping mechanism. And that was a mistake.
Okay, can I just say something? I say the same thing about, this is why I say, you know how people hate Hassan Piker? Yes, it's relating, just shish. And people go, oh, you hate Hassan Piker because he's a rich socialist. I just like Hassan Piker for his capitalistic, his overconsumption. Sorry, not capitalistic, but overconsumption, which is honestly capitalistic, right? Like his obsession or his need to be pretty is related to patriarchy. His obsession with being in shape and being attractive is patriarchy. The same way MJ comes off. And that's what people have to understand. Like the fact that, you know, he talks about like he's too fat to model, that's patriarchy. That's fat phobia. That's why it's confusing when you see MJ talk about how she's not going to marry men and now she's getting married. Or you see Hassan say like, oh yeah, like fuck capitalism. But the thing is like, it's, you know what I mean? There's an intersection here. So that's why I say when he says, I don't go to therapy and I don't want to go to therapy, I haven't gone to therapy. What he's saying is like, I'm not going to go to therapy for all these things. So now it's playing out online. Now we have to suffer because these people won't go to therapy or do philosophical work. And I'm saying that's why these people can't be our leaders, because they're not doing the work. And it's hard to do the work. Like it's hard to, yeah, chat said fatphobia and fascism are intertwined. Yes, they are. Yes, they absolutely are. And fatphobia plays a part in racism. Fatphobia is one of the cornerstones of white supremacy. That's how they police black bodies. Or non-white bodies who like, look like what they perceive as fat, right? So like there's an intersection here that's obvious. And that's the thing, that's the irony, not because, the point is like, focus on capitalism, right? Like the left starts at anti-capitalism. Look, my leftism starts at anti-capitalism and it has to be and. It can't just be anti-capitalism. That's so white sounding to me, right? Jess said I was literally about to say fatphobia and anti-blackness are linked. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And so that's the part of this whole conversation that tells me you are where you're at. You might be popular and all these people might be famous, but why wouldn't they? They work with the system. That's what I'm saying. Of course Hassan is popular. The system loves him. Of course MJ is popular. The system loves her. Of course the Wizard Liz is a popular. The system loves her. None of these people are doing anything revolutionary, because if they were, they would not be this well liked. Trust me when I say being well liked is not a good sign. Now, being universally hated is not a good sign either. You don't want to be universally hated or very well liked. You want to be liked by the right people and you want to be hated by the right people. And if you are mixing up, that's why we go back. Okay, bringing this full circle. Everybody lock in. Full circle, bring around. Christian Divine making the decision to make that video, centering his attention on the 62 million man number. Who was supporting him? The misogynists on the internet. The worst men on the internet were 100% being like, Christian Divine is right. And all of the women and all of the victims and everybody was like, what are you doing? You are distracting. You are literally fueling people with Jesus and United States flags in their bios to feel empowered to come at us and call us emotional women who like only act on our feelings. And Christian decided to die on this hill, which meant that he was playing into the system. He has almost 1 million followers on TikTok. Like, this is why I say to you, like, it's all connected. It's all connected. All of us are on a journey, but not everyone is as deconstructed as they think they are. Myself included. Myself included. That's the difference. As I'm sitting here right now, that's why I take down content, by the way. I know a lot of people think, oh, did you take it down to hide it? That's why we go over it over the years. I take down my content because it's bad and it's supporting a message I don't believe in. Christian needs to take down all of those videos he made about 62 million. All 9 videos or 8 videos he made, take them all down. Nobody needs to see those videos and feel empowered to go after women. Take them down. And that's why I say it. It's not about hiding. It's about being honest about the harm those videos cause if people see them and still think you think that way. Take it down. Now, some of my old content I do have up, and with a caveat, if it's older than 6 months, it's honestly out of date. Like, some of my videos have stood the test of time. I do keep some of my videos up, but the ones that I think are like really, really bad and obviously harmful, I take down. Okay? But that's the problem with like the internet and the way that it works. My partner always points this out, that I'm killing my own channel by privating content. That's true. Because now all of those views and all of those likes, all of those shares are gone. Do you know that? Do you know that if I private a video, I lose the analytic? The analytic goes, oh, she has less channel views now. So then my videos don't get promoted. So I tell you right now, that's my activism. My proof of value comes in me willing to take a pay cut or lose opportunities or have my channel be silenced. That's why us reaching 100,000 subscribers today, is it even still 100,000? Did it go back down? Is a big deal. But it also, I could have gone there years before if I didn't make all these decisions, right? But I made all of these decisions and I will make them again and over time, and I will make them forever, right? I will continue to make them forever, because at the end of the day, like, I need to be able to live with myself. Okay? And I don't know how these people do it. And that's the question. That's why I always wonder, like, how are we doing the same thing if you're doing what you're doing and I'm doing what I'm doing? And that's the problem. Okay? Does that make sense? Did I bring it all around? Does it all connect for people, that all of these things are connected? Then all of these people are on a journey. Let me do one more thing and then I'm done, and then you can ask questions and we can end stream, okay? At the end of the day, let's say life was a linear spectrum, even though we know it's not, okay? And we have these sort of conservative and, let's say, liberated kind of perspectives. Actually, you really don't even see it realistically, okay? It really just goes into the ether. So this is where you don't want to be. You don't want to be on this section, okay? But, some people, they start off here, guys. That's where their life began. And on a spectrum, we all go through life hopefully deconstructing into a better version of ourselves, even off the screen, right? But a lot of these people we talk about, they're like somewhere here, Hassan, Wizard, Liz, all these women. It's like people are talking about liberation and anti-capitalism, but somehow they're still closer here than here because they always end up fighting or collaborating or focusing or centering these voices, right? And I'm saying I want to center these voices, even though I don't even know who they are yet. And that's what's exciting. Somebody the other day asked me, where are you on the spectrum? Like, how left are you? Or what candidate would you vote for? I'm like, they're not born yet. I am so excited for the future, though I think it's always a repeating of cycles. And I really think like the future is now, the president is now, time is illusion. And I also believe with all of my heart that the people that I think are going to make the greatest changes in the world haven't been born yet. And I also think there's no philosophical or even political framework that truly is liberated. It's all just a guess. I mean, look at the way you guys are holding on to Marxism like a white man didn't make it. You know what I mean? Like as if it wasn't, you know what I mean, created, well, how many, like when, 18 something, whatever. It's like, girl, you know what I mean? Like you're attached to the past so badly. Like you're doing it again, putting all your faith in a white man. Always, always, always do that. And then you wonder why it never works. It's because, you're so beholden to the past. You're so married to the past. You're married to the outcome. And that's why, of course, the largest voice on the left is a white man, a white cis man. Like, of course, the largest voice on the left is a, you know what I mean? So again, when we have these conversations, it's just very difficult. And I'm not saying, by the way, I don't like the framework of Marxism. I love it. It's based. Love communism. Sounds good, bro. And also, right? So that's the thing, is like, history will repeat itself because this is how humans are and this is who we are. And just like you don't live for the potential of your boyfriend, you got to stop living for the potential of humanity, which means you have to center yourself in the most grounded reality, which is right now the most present, and be less bad every day. Because you keep trying to be a good person, right? We try to, like, the road to hell is paved in good intentions. Stop trying to be a good person that's not working. Try to be less bad every day. With little things around the house, with little things in your life. Just make a decision. Do something that only you will ever know happened to. Do stuff for you, do stuff for them, do stuff for your community, but do something. Do something a little bad or a little less bad every day. Just a little less bad, just like one thing. And you'll get in the habit of doing it when temptation comes knocking. Because I tell you this right now, it's easy to be a good person if you never have to make a choice. But if you live a life that is truly fulfilled, a really good life, a really lived life, you will have to make choices. And you're going to have to live with those choices. Some good, some bad. But if you practice doing less bad every day, I really believe you will make less bad choices as you go on. I really believe this.